when it comes to like Book of Mormon type things or stuff like that, there are ruins there. I don't think anyone has said, "Oh, I think that this is the land bountiful" or something like that. Nothing that specific. But I do know that there are sometimes church tour groups that go through a lot of Central America. But what is kind of cool in terms of modern day church history was something that I didn't realize when went there in the beginning, but it's something that really helped me because sometimes as a missionary you feel like you're getting nowhere, and you feel like every time that you baptize, for every person you might baptize, there's two people that go inactive, or that there's just that the work is stalling, and that there is definite retention problems in Honduras. And that can be kind of depressing as a missionary, as people that you helped and served and worked so hard to help bring to the church. Sometimes they fall away too, and that can be really disheartening. And so I remember that I was kind of thinking about that and talking about that with a companion, and just kind of feeling, man, that makes things kind of tough. But then as I got to understand the history of Honduras a little bit more, I actually ended up getting transferred to an area where one of the women in the ward talked about how she remembered, and this woman was a little bit older, she was a grandmother type age, but wasn't extremely old by any means, and she remembered talking like, oh yeah, well, the church building that I used to go to, and it wasn't in my area, but it was in the neighboring area. She said that church building, that's the first church building that was ever built in Honduras. And I said, oh really, that's kind of cool. And she said, yeah, I remember as a little girl going to take lunch to people who were building it. The very first building. And I said, really? And she said, yeah, I must have been, like 10 years old or something like that. So at that time, what I realized is, the church had only been in Honduras. The first building had only gone up 50 years ago. And the church had come in, a few years before that. And so that was kind of interesting. And she said, yeah, I remember when there was nothing there. And so later in my mission, I had a chance to go to that building and attend that ward. And there in that ward was the sixth person who had ever been baptized in Honduras. And he was older, he was definitely an older grandpa, but, he was there. The sixth person who had ever been baptized was still attending that ward and was still alive. And, that was when I really began to see, and what it was a testimony builder to me that, even though sometimes when you're in the middle of it, you think the work's not progressing, I thought, wow, basically in 50 years, there went from being no members in the whole country of Honduras to now in every single neighborhood almost there's a church building, an owned building by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they have a temple now, and it's been divided up into 3 missions, and there's just and there's probably over 100 wards. I mean, there's just the church has really exploded if you think about it. In just 50 years, just how many new members have been baptized, and that the work is progressing forward. If I think about it, when I left, there was probably about 180 missionaries, and typically each companionship, there's typically 1 ward to each companionship. So there was probably about 90 wards in my mission, and then there's 3 missions. So yeah, there was probably over 250 wards in the whole country, and that had all happened in 50 years. And so, what's going to happen within another generation, a lot of the people were first generation members, and the second generation members, they were just, kind of coming of age and starting to just, be the adults and have their own kids. So, there's really, there's really just 2, maybe in some families 3 generations of members. And that's incredible just how much the church has grown in that short time, and so it was helpful for me to really understand that, because, like I said, sometimes you really do feel like, man, there's we keep losing everybody. It's like trying to get a handful of water, but the Lord is aware of what's going on, and the work will continue to progress, and there will, the church will not take steps backward. The work, Heavenly Father won't let that happen to the work, and so you just have to sometimes take a little bigger view of the whole picture and realize that the church has come a long way in what's honestly a very short amount of time, and within, like I said, within another cycle of generations, it's just going to continue to grow exponentially.